Y'all be quiet. I'm trying to drink this coffee without them knowing I'm drinking out of a Cowboys cup. Just in case you didn't know, now you do. Welcome to another episode
We
of Queen
still them boys.
and King. How is y'all doing? Today's topic is the motivation of fear. The motivation of fear. This ought to be interesting. If you know somebody who normally listening that's not, you need to get them on because I promise you they're going to get some good nuggets today. And if you know somebody who always act like they're scared of something, get them on and bless them. And if you know somebody who think that they ain't never scared of nothing, get them on because we got something for them. What I'm trying to say is we got something for everybody with all the vowels and consonants and syllables or syllables, however you pronounce it. We got them in there. You hear me?
Syllables.
I think it's syllables.
It depends on how you pronounce it. They may put the wrong emphasis on the wrong syllable. And don't spit your drink out. And by the way, a public service announcement from Queen3 King. Don't look at Mika lips today. I don't think she used her regular brand of chapstick. You know, it's getting close to Carmex season, so y'all bear with her today. But without further ado,
oh my God,
let me go on and introduce my co-host. And first, out of Atlanta, Texas, by way of East Garland, Texas. One of the original East Side Posse female members.
Yeah.
Darling Nikki, Boney Maroney, Skinny Minnie, Coco, the Glamour herself. What up, Queen?
Hey, how y'all doing? Y'all doing all right?
Right. And next, out of East Garland, Texas, by way of Tulsa, Oklahoma. We have been strictly forbode to speak about what's going on with the title of Queen of Tulsa right now. There is some litigation in progress. Standing at 5'2.5" tall. She got a little shorter once they file that suit.
Oh my God.
The educator, Mika. Talk to the people, Queen.
We still them boys. How y'all doing tonight?
Okay.
Some fans you don't want to claim if they don't represent the brand well. This is a cross between Anita Baker and Demi Moore or somebody like that.
Oh, Demi Moore.
Yeah, that's why I said I gave you one good one and one bad one. And last but not least,
my God,
Blake Mama. The one who already trying to buy 5-year-olds their own necklaces because he finna claim them. He take out this uncle. The baby queen. What up, Queen?
Hey, y'all. Happy Tuesday. Let's get to it.
All right, we got Miss Wilson already dropping some comments there. We got some other folks on the line. Y'all speak to us so we know who they are so I can say something funny about you.
Charlotte Wilson.
All right. So we'll start with Nikki here, and we'll just ask that question. Okay, so the topic again is the motivation of fear.
Yes.
What is fear motivation?
It's basically an internal process of the unknown and not really wanting to. What's the right word I'm looking for?
Apparently.
I thought you was frozen.
Yeah,
but you're here.
No,
blink your eyes or something when you think.
No, I was saying that it's basically the internal. It's the internal. I forgot the word I was gonna say, and then y'all sidetracked me again.
It's okay.
I didn't say a word.
Not you, Felicia.
Sound it out.
Let's start over.
Like we
ask me the question again.
Okay. Welcome to another episode of Queen3. God, dog. What is fear motivation? Read the text you sent us. Hell, if you can't do nothing else, what is fear motivation?
Let me go to the
restroom.
I said that it's internally. It's a process internally that makes us want to get away from things that we don't want to do.
Okay. All right. I think she done forgot that Google definition and she's struggling. She wasn't ever that good at memory in class, memorization.
You a lie.
That sound like that.
All right. Mika, what is fear motivation?
I saw a really good thing on Facebook. It is false evidence appearing real.
Yeah, I saw that before.
So I think we make it up in our minds a lot of
Right.
the time because it's unknown. Fear comes from the unknown or something that we think could happen. We've never experienced it, and I think it comes from the people around us as well. We see people go through different experiences. We see things on TV, and it evokes fear in us. Depending on the topic, depending on where we are in our life, depending on the season. So it just depends on what's going on around us. I think that's where fear comes from.
Okay, and Lily, before we give our answer, we're gonna just catch up on the chat room. We got Amarita says, "Hey family, how you doing?"
Hey,
Rita,
Marita. Hey,
she says,
Rita.
"Hey, my beautiful family."
Hey.
We got Ben Suttereth the third, the gentleman
Hey,
who
Mr.
BS
Ben.
and BS3 Network. We got Trishayla Gates.
Hey,
She's still
Shayla.
rocking that Auburn for the fall. Y'all see that? Y'all see what's happening? Y'all see
You
what's
Auburn.
cute,
happening?
Shayla.
We
Hey,
got Miss
Shayla.
Lynn because I have to listen later. I have a Zoom meeting with my ministry at church. Okay, ministry.
All right now.
You better
Ministry at
minister.
church.
She's trying to say that she
You
wants folks
saved.
to know that she is saved and sanctified and filled with the Holy Ghost.
Us
Well,
too.
it's good to be in the house of the Lord on another Sunday. I think
One more
call
time.
back so you can do testimony, Lynn. To give an honor to God, the pastor, the ministers on the roster,
Not the
the
ministry
first
on my
lady,
roster.
and all the distinguished men and women of God. Lily, what is fear motivation?
I think I have to agree. It's one of those things where it's the fear of the unknown, right? So sometimes I know when we're motivated to do something, a lot of the times we put fear in the back of our mind and it stops us from moving towards that thing. And I actually saw something earlier when I was kind of thinking about this topic where it said, for example, if you have fear of public speaking, but you're trying to qualify for a certain position or occupation, you have to overcome that your fear has to you have to overcome the fear of the motivation of getting that role, right, or that occupation. So that has to be greater than what fear is.
Right. Okay, so when Nikki was giving her example, it made me think of a good way to illustrate this. Before I do, let's just let Lynn get her 2 licks in. You get on my nerves.
Don't she say that? She tell you that every week.
Yeah, she's gonna get ready to go to church, and I still get on my nerves. If you said y'all was on a Zoom prayer meeting, you need to get in line first. That's what I
She praying.
A-Trap says, good evening, family. And
Hey,
thank you to
A-Trap.
A-Trap. He always supports us on his platform, the End of the Bench podcast on Built for This Network. He is always telling his listeners, his viewers to tune into our episode, giving them the date, the time, and whatnot. So he comes on before us at 5:30, I believe, 5 or 5:30. But I'm Built for This Network, at the End of the Bench podcast. Look him up, support him. He's always got some good information, and they usually be about the people. You hear me? So check him out. Appreciate you, A-Trap. And Charlotte Wilson said the urge to avoid something we feel is harmful to us, and as you said, the unknown. It's like a survival instinct. Right. Kirby Alexander saying peace. What's up, Kirby? We appreciate you tuning in. So again, something Nikki said made me think of an example or an illustration to be able to kind of describe fear in the way that I see it visually. And Mika, you're an educator. You ought to know some people learn differently. So let me get him a visual, right? So I used to own horses, and when you ride a horse, you could either ride a horse with spurs or without spurs. Well, your horse is going to respond very differently when you have on spurs and you poking them in that side, right? And so when Nikki talked about wanting to move away from that thing that you fear, that is exactly how you get a horse to change directions. It is the reason why you see some horses turn directions really fast and they seem sharp and they seem to behave. Sometimes the difference could be those spurs. So that fear, those spurs represents fear, right? When it pokes you, it causes you to move away from it. So if I want my horse to move to the right, I'll poke him with my left spur and he's going to move away from that. If I want him to move left, I'll poke him with my right spur and he's going to move away from that. If I want him to go forward, I'm going to poke him back a little bit so he can go away from that, and vice versa, right? So he's going to go the opposite of wherever those sticks are. So that's how fear operates. It's designed, or it's not designed that way, but it causes you to move away from that thing that you fear. And that's how it's a negative impact on you. Justin is in the house. The Elevate podcast.
Hey, Justin.
Thursdays at 7.
Great podcast.
Check him out. Yeah, I'm gonna have to. He kind of still in that shell. I need him to cut loose over there. Maybe you need to burn you one before you go on. It helps me. Miss Sonia said, "Hello, good people."
Hello.
She was tuning in from work. We appreciate it. Rita said, "Fear is something that scared the hell out of me." Scared the hell out of a lot of people.
Right.
So Lily, we've lost her. I saw it go. She kind of got a little and it's a little blurry. So it looks like you have some internet issues over there. Oops.
Is it still blurry?
Yeah, it's a little blurry.
But you coming back.
I don't know what's going on.
There it is. See?
Yeah, you coming back.
Yeah, your color done came back now.
Oh,
you
my
look
God.
like you were low sick over there for a minute.
I don't know what's wrong with this.
She said, "I'm here. They're having technical difficulties." Okay, you're gonna keep us posted on the progress of your
Keep us
Zoom
posted,
meeting.
Lynn.
You know what I will say is that
Let us know how it
it's
turned
one
out.
that's gonna let us know what the hell is going on, whether we want to know or not.
And we want to know, Sister Lynn.
So, my next angle on this, Lee, and I'm gonna start with you, is what are some examples of fear being used as a motivator? What are some examples that pop into your head of fear being used as a motivator?
You say you're starting with me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Fear being used as a motivator. I would say just like in everyday life. So some people are scared to take the next step in life. I think about whether it's job opportunities, whether it's in a relationship, you're scared of what's to come next. Those are the kind of things that come to my mind. Even being a parent. Sometimes I have that fear of, am I doing it right? What could I do better as a parent and things like that. So I think those are kind of the examples that come to my mind when I think about fear being one of those things that you kind of keep in the back of your head.
All right, Mika, how do you see it? What are some examples of fear being used as a motivator?
Okay, so let's see. Let's go with a couple examples, guys. So sometimes you've seen bad examples of marriages, bad examples of raising children, and sometimes it makes you fear going into that stage of life. So, but I think it should motivate you to do better, to operate in a different way, or to seek advice or counsel behind that thing, because sometimes, childhood traumas can make you have fear, or different experiences can make you have fear, and you'll go away, just like Ted used an example of a horse. You'll go away from that experience versus taking it head on to see how you do with it. So it can be past experiences, traumas, and all that stuff that lead to fear. But I think sometimes when we take those head on, we see that fear wasn't exactly what it was supposed to be.
Okay. The seasoned queen, what are some examples of fear being used as a motivator?
One of the examples that Mika used about marriage, that was one of the things that when I read the question when I saw the question, that I thought about really good, really in detail. And like Mika said about with marriages and stuff like that, that's a motivation for me, because we have been around a lot of family members or friends that have had divorces and stuff, and you wonder, okay, what did they do wrong, or what happened? We try. That motivates me to try to do better and to make sure that I have better communication skills and things of that nature. But then also as a parent, like Alicia mentioned about the parent thing, we had a good role model and our mom, if nothing else. If they had, they did it with their dad, but that makes me and push me and motivates me to do better because of those things. And then the other thing that I thought about too was, even when I became a grandmother, I didn't know how I was I didn't know how I was going to be as a grandmother. So that,
yeah, that scared us too. Shit.
yeah. You boy, you better be glad I'm saved, sanctified, filled with the Holy Ghost, because I was about to say something I should not have.
My neck started itching because I thought nigga.
Girl, you better watch what you say on this podcast, brother. You better watch yourself.
So
but anyway,
me,
but I am an excellent grandmother because my mom is an excellent grandmother.
hey, the jury's still out on that one.
Yes, she is.
I hope she's watching.
I hope she watches.
She done had almost 32 years to practice, but the jury's still out on that one. All right. So for me, some prime examples of fear being used as a motivator are, number one, what y'all talked about, parenting, but it's a different way, right?
Mm-hmm.
In being who our mama is, weren't we motivated by fear? You do this, don't I'm gonna whip your tail. You do this, don't you're not gonna get to go do whatever. That is a prime example of fear being used as a motivator, right? Yeah. Somebody else putting that threat of consequences on us, right? That's a fear. Another one is that we've all seen in workplaces, right? Mm-hmm. Fear is used as a motivator there. You do this or you're gonna get fired. You do this or you ain't gonna get that raise. You do this or you know, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I gotta get to a couple of good comments. But again, fear is a motivator for those prime examples. And I'm sure as soon as I name those, y'all immediately thought of 3 or 4 others that apply in that same circumstance, you know, where somebody's going to use it, right? And you talked about marriages. One spouse may, you know, threaten the other spouse. You know, if this doesn't happen, you know, I'm gone. If this doesn't happen, you're not getting no sex. I'll wait. That's what I thought.
I ain't gonna threaten.
So again, there are several examples of fear being used as a motivator. So let's see. Weeda said she used another one that's a great example, right? Pastors or ministers.
Oh yeah.
You know, fear of going to hell, help motivate people to try to live right?
Instead of just telling them to do right, helping them to do right.
Yeah, that's why Nikki didn't respond when I called her out on our fear of grandmother, because she wanted to do right. She wanted to get to heaven.
I don't say not to hell. I don't.
But one more that came out for me, Ted, was generational curses scared the bejesus out of me.
Yes,
I fear
that's
those.
A good one.
Mm-hmm.
And so you want to be able to break them. So that's another one. And there are several generational curses for different families, but generational curses is another one that you just want to be able to break away from.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, that whole pastors or ministers or whatever using that, you know, if you don't get your tithes, you're gonna lose your job. If you don't, you know, whatever the case. Fear is used, you know,
for a lot of things.
I used to use it on Nikki when we was kids. You know, you're gonna let me play with that Rubik's Cube, but I'm gonna tell you did XYZ. You know,
I forgot about a Rubik's Cube.
And guess what happened? I got to play with her Rubik's Cube. Yeah, she didn't want me to go tell mama.
You should have been playing with G.I. Joe. Like,
Rubik's Cube.
See, that's the problem.
What man play with a Rubik's Cube?
Rubik's Cube is a multi-gendered toy, just like the Slinky is.
Yeah, but most Tutti kids play with it.
Most who?
Most Tutti Frutti kids play with it.
Okay, I'm finna keep on going. I'm finna keep on going.
She said that, I didn't.
Yeah, that's right. The views expressed out of Anna are not the views of Queen3 King and BS.
No.
And we just said, well, I can tell you cuss on the podcast and I can't.
And you can.
Yeah, I'm Raider Kev in the business. Say, what up, fam? What up, Raider Kev?
Hey.
And H-Rap says, I agree, Doc. Yeah. And then he laughing at Nikki for wanting to go to heaven. Okay. So let me ask you this then about fear. So we talked about what fear motivation is. You know, we've given some examples of fear being used as a motivator by people. So let me ask you this question. Is fear the most powerful motivator? Is fear the most powerful motivator? Nikki, we'll go to you first.
I think that it is. And my reason being is, again, like we talked about earlier, because it's basically the unknown. So you don't know what what could happen if you didn't master something. Like for me, with the fear was a motivator for me. Because when I first found out that I was gonna, when God gave me the vision of Keegan's place, that scared me a lot. I mean, and I didn't think I was going to be able to do it. So I think that having the fear of that pushed me to do the things that I needed to do, whether I knew how to do them or not. God put people around me that I could ask to, that was in those types of situations, with starting businesses, whether it was nonprofit, whether it was just their own businesses, to help me get through that process. But fear did motivate me, because I didn't want to not be successful with it.
Right. All right. Lily, is fear I'm going out of order a little bit. Lily, is fear the most powerful motivator?
I think in a lot of situations, for me personally, I have to say yes, because when I thought about this topic, I often go back to the time when I was trying to prepare to interview for a role as a supervisor. Mm-hmm. And I was scared. I'm like, I know how to lead myself at work, but do I know how to lead other people? Mm-hmm. And I had to kind of work through those things. And it was a number of things going on in the background, like in the personal life. So Brandon's grandmother had just died, and I was really close with her, all this kind of stuff. And it was almost like the outside world was trying to block me, but I had to zone in and know, you may be scared, but what God has for you is going to be for you. And mm-hmm. and to put me in that position, I think that fear kind of catapulted me into another level within my job and within the corporate America. Mm-hmm. So I definitely think for me, in a lot of situations that I think back to, fear has definitely impacted me and motivated me to push forward.
Mm-hmm. Mika, you look like you got a little different opinion about fear being the most powerful motivator.
It's not a different opinion. I'm kind of stuck on this one, meaning it should not be the main motivator, but I think 80% of the time it is. Mm-hmm. So while we all go through tests and trials, and most of the time those come with fear, like Alicia said, I think that fear catapults us or pushes us to go where we should be going. And I think one of the main motivators should be love and faith. Mm-hmm. But I think we don't put that in, I think that doesn't equate as much as fear does when we're trying to do different things.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So for me, fear, and Mika's answer was very close to mine, in the sense that I have to answer it two ways. So for me, when we're talking about fear being the most powerful motivator for society, the majority of society, I think the answer is yes. Yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm. For me, individual, the answer is no. While it used to be, as my relationship with Christ developed and grew, I understood that fear and faith can't occupy the same place, and so as a result, I started to fear, if that makes any sense, right? Mm-hmm. Anytime I felt myself being afraid of something, I didn't like the feeling, and I did the opposite of that. I did what was necessary to be rid of that from a spiritual standpoint, and started operating by other motivations, right? And one of those motivations was, for me, if I acted afraid, then I did not act like I have faith, and that was offensive to God for me, and Wida kind of touched on that piece of it and says fear is the most powerful motivator, because we're all believers, and all believers fear God. Mm-hmm. So that's a good point. And Wida also said, Lily, Alicia, Wilma, Jean kids can do anything successful. Amen. Anybody in my family can do anything successful. Anybody whose eyes are watching this can do anything successful.
That's right.
And I speak that over your life right now. Lynn says, I'm there, Lily, right now. Okay, cool. About the fear of being moving on, right? Well, you're in the right place. So maybe you don't need to be on that Zoom meeting. Maybe the Lord ended that Zoom meeting for a reason, so you can hear this, right? Mm-hmm. Again, we talked about fear being the most powerful motivator. Yeah. So now let me naturally go into this. And Lily, we'll start with you on this. Why is fear so powerful?
I think it's a natural instinct. I think somebody said it before. We naturally go to we naturally are afraid of what is the unknown, right? Mm-hmm. So we fear what is next to come. As humans, we want to know what's next, right? So when you're stepping into new situations and new territory, you don't always know the next step. Mm-hmm. So that fear is going to creep in and be a natural part of the process. It doesn't mean that you're driven by fear. It doesn't mean that fear has a hold of you. That's just a natural thing that will kind of creep its way into it. But you just have to know how to navigate around that.
Right, right. Okay, Mika, why is fear so powerful?
Because it's easy. It takes nothing to be fearful to me. Meaning that's an easy emotion to have. Like that's one of our first emotions we have. Faith is hard to me. Being able to see past something that really scares me or the unknown. Mm-hmm. What are you going to pick, faith or fear? It should be naturally, since like Ted said, since we're believers, and like we pointed out, it should be naturally to be faith, to have faith in yourself and God and see that situation through. But fear kind of overtakes you quicker than your faith does sometimes. And like Ted said, sometimes when you get in that fight, if you haven't prayed about it and haven't talked to God about it, fear will overtake you easier than faith will. If you're not strong in that walk. So It's an easy emotion. Like that's the first thing to go to.
All right. H-Rap says, love that answer, Alicia.
Thank you.
Alicia. Charlotte Wilson says, I have a fear of not doing what God created me to do. That's a
that's good.
Yeah. Enough.
That
right?
messes with me today,
and number one is because people aren't certain of what that is. You know,
not knowing what your purpose is.
Purpose.
Yeah.
Brian says, love that one as well, Mika. And Lynn says, I keep coming back each week for you to beat me up in love. So why is fear so powerful? I believe fear is so powerful because it's God given, right? It's part of how we were created. Okay. And Lily, we're going to go to your segment after I give this answer. So it's part of how we were created, right? You know, God gave us that, right? That instinct of fear. He gave us that feeling of fear, and it is a physical one, right? We don't think fear, we feel fear, right? And that's why it's so powerful, because you feel it, because it's a physical thing. And sometimes it make folks sick to their stomach. Sometimes it give folks anxiousness. Sometimes it gives folks headaches. Sometimes they get the chills, right? So fear is God given.
Anxiety.
Yeah, it was given to us by God, but it was given as a safety mechanism, right? It wasn't given for that negative purpose, right? It was given for a safety mechanism. If you start fearing something, you need to pay attention to what's going on, right? Not stop your momentum, not do what it is you were going to do. It's designed to be aware. So when you feel that fear about that promotion, or when you feel that fear about becoming a grandmother, or when you feel that fear about getting into a relationship, that's necessary. You're supposed to feel it, right? But why am I feeling it? You got to pay attention and dive into that, and do a deep dive into why am I feeling this, as opposed to making it stop you from doing whatever. It's just to make you aware of something, right? People have a fear of flying, right? You don't mean you're not supposed to fly, figure out what the fear is all about.
You're pushed out of your comfort zone.
Yeah, no question about it. But I think the physical aspect of fear is what's really powerful, right? We feel it. And there's so many things in our lives that don't create a physical reaction like that. Fear does, so it gets folks' attention. So again, it's not why it was created, it's not why we were given, but just like so many things in life, the enemy is taking it and he is using it in the number one battlefield, which is your mind. Right. Yeah. He's taking it and he's using it for his purposes as opposed to God's purposes. Right. And with that said, I understand that
the streets are talking.
All right, Lily, what's the streets having to say?
Oh, so much. And I think within the last 24 hours, I even had another story, but that fear. That fear creeped in because I didn't want to be crucified to the cross. Because you know how it is about some of our beloved communities. So didn't want to go there. But I do have another story that happened, I think, yesterday or the day before. So Kourtney Kardashian is engaged to Travis Barker. And the streets are talking. So one meme that I saw floating around, which sparked a lot of conversation, and I seen a lot of people had a lot to say about it. So wanted to see what you guys' thought was on that. So it says, what Scott couldn't do in 11 years, Travis did in 10 months. Time means nothing. Don't be scared to start over until you find your true love. So my question to you is, should there be a time limit when waiting on that ring or proposal? Some people said after 2 years, I'm done. Some people says 5 years is way too long. Sis, what are you doing? So what is your thought on that? Do you think there should be a time limit on how long you're dating somebody, or are there different circumstances that would make you feel one way or the other?
Well, I think that it's not only about how long you wait, but how short you wait. If that makes any sense, right? It's not only about how long you're going to wait till he proposed, as opposed to y'all only been together 3 months and he already proposed. That's another time element, right? So she's using it in the short way that he's done this in 10 months or whatever the case may be. Right. And some folks are like, God, dog, already? Well, we all know some people who get married quick, and they talk about it, right? There's been some marriages that have been, 4 or 5 decades long that, they were married in 3 months, they met each other, they moved in a month later, we married in 3 months, we've been married for 50 years, right? So I think that, and then there's some people who, have been quote unquote engaged for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. And I fall more on that category. If marriage is your end goal, if that's what you wanted, right? And it's been 2, 3, 4, 5 years and no discernible reason why, that would, this little red flag thing we've been putting out.
I was about to ask, is that a red flag?
Red flags, right? If you've made clear that that's what your end goal is, and you don't have any discernible reason why it's not taking place, to me, I'm gonna be more likely to move on when it's been too long, and I'm gonna likely have more of a reaction to somebody who's been waiting that long as opposed to somebody who gets married quicker, right? Because I can understand where that comes from. Mika, anybody can talk. Just Lily segment.
Yeah.
I was thinking about that because I seen that meme last night or the night before. I can't remember when I seen it, but I'm kind of with Teg on this one. If you are 2 grown adults that have been, we've dated, we put in quality time, we've gotten to know each other. Why are we dating 8 to 10 years? And we're not, if we start as teenagers, that's a different thing. If I start with you and I'm 18, 19, 21, 22, 20, that's a whole different ballpark. I'm talking about us 30 plus and we dating for 7 to 10 years. For what? So, and maybe some people can think, maybe some people may think I'm wrong, but I've heard a couple people, a couple men say, I know within a year if I'm going to be with you. So.
Yeah. And Derek says it depends on the quantity of the time in conjunction with the quality.
That's right.
You can find out what you need to know quickly if you're really looking. And that's
you can find out it doesn't take 7 to 10 years.
And that leads right into H-Rap's point. He goes, I'm 51. Let me meet somebody with some that touched me the right way. And I'm jumping in 10 fingers, 10 toes. I only have 25 to 30 more good years. Louisa says, Scott is probably thinking, why buy the cow when you can get the milk for free? She was already doing the things a wife be doing. That happened.
Yeah.
I
think that's more on our topic.
Okay. As opposed to that, yeah. Okay.
Nikki, what do you think?
Nikki, you got anything on that?
I don't think that a time matters either. I know that Ken and we dated for 4 years before we got married. And so that was just I'm not the type of person that's gonna pressure somebody or say, you know what I mean? When God gives it to him, he know whenever he wants to marry me. I'm not one of those girls where you got to say, you know, when you gonna ask me to marry you and all that. So it doesn't matter. It could be, like Mika said, it could be 3 months, it could be 6 months, it could be a year. As long as we're two grown, consenting adults, I don't see anything wrong with it.
So how long are you gonna give him though? You said that you're gonna wait till the Lord gonna tell him. How long you gonna? What if the Lord ain't told him in 15 years?
Well, no. What I'm saying is, if I'm not gonna pressure anybody. Basically,
I get that.
Whether we're dating or not, I'm not gonna pressure anybody because maybe I wasn't ready at the time to be married.
But is it pressure or is it talking about the future?
Sometimes it can be pressure from women. If some women do pressure, others don't.
So how long do you go though? That's what I'm saying. For you, you were good at 4 years. Some people are going stir crazy at 4 years, right?
And that's what I'm saying.
How long you gonna go?
It's different for every woman.
Lord. Are you gonna give them 10 years to wait on the Lord? When are you gonna? You gotta have a drop dead day, right?
But what I'm saying is, it's different for every woman. For me, that was okay.
All right.
Because I wasn't ready at the time.
You specifically, how long would you go? If 4 years, if it didn't happen, how much longer would you have given him? I'm talking about you specifically.
I don't know. I never even thought about how much longer I would give him. I just knew that what I wanted, but I wasn't going to pressure him into it. Yeah. And y'all, you know what I mean? Because it's just, y'all may not understand it, but I'm just saying that's how I felt about it.
Okay. Yeah, I think when I thought about this, me and Brandon dated 10 years, but we met when I just turned 21. So it was a lot of growing pains that happened with that. So I think it was one of those things. If we got married right when we met, that would have been one of the biggest mistakes that we made. Exactly. Because we weren't ready. But I think the difference with this question is when you're dating with a purpose and you are maybe older, your patience is kind of like my mama said, patience is thin when I'm getting older. You don't have that much time. You don't want to wait around. You want to go ahead and get married, start your family or whatever. But I think it's different for you to lay out a blanket statement. I think a lot of people jump out the window and lay out a blanket statement based on their situation. But they often forget that also there's different scenarios that can kind of play into that. And me and Brandon had a breakup. So, I mean, it just wasn't the time, but we also knew when it was the time. When it came down to it, we knew when we were dating with the purpose, and that's what we wanted our goal to be.
And my answer is going to vary at 21 versus 31.
Yeah.
Or, it's going to look different.
And y'all have to remember how old I was when I was with Ken too. I was already in my 30s dating him. But at the same time, I was trying to make sure that myself and my kids, the 2 kids I already had, was good. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And we had many breakups too in between those 4 years as well. So I'm just going by my experience. I don't know about how other people, like I say, everybody's different.
Yeah, but sometimes it's fun to break up to make up. You hear me?
Well, the makeup part is always the fun part.
Okay, that's gross.
Sometimes the breakup good too. See, depending on how I'm feeling.
Brian says, I'm buying the cow. I'm sick of going to the stove.
Yeah.
And he also said, yes, Nicole, a lot of women pressure. And then Derek had a fantastic response to that. He goes, it's more pressure if a man knows he's not ready financially or otherwise. The woman doesn't have to do or say much for him to feel that pressure if he's a good guy.
Yeah, that's good.
Justin says so much to say to this.
So say it.
Say it.
Pick one, pick your best and give it to us.
So say it.
Eric Curtis, what's up, Eric? Say dating with a purpose. I like that, sis.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it's about. When you get older, you should be dating with a purpose in these streets.
And my Aunt Rita, who I believe I've heard her say the best way to get over a man is get under him.
Oh my God.
Yeah, she said it all the time.
My God, today.
She says, I would play the song If You Don't Want to Love Me, Love Somebody Else by Lou Rawls. I heard that. All right, I got that one. Make sure I didn't miss. Mika Delaney is in the house. Start supporting us on a couple others. What's up, Mickey? Thank you for tuning in. Oh, okay. I'll get to that one. Let me get back on topic. Charlotte Wilson says, marrying because of the fear of loneliness is a mistake too.
Yes,
that's what I
is.
did. But I wouldn't want to wait for many years either. When you know you're with the one, you shouldn't wait.
Yeah.
Life is very short. And
Yep.
Rita says, I said that. Yeah. I know you did.
Yeah.
I know you did. Okay, great. Anybody got any last thoughts on that before we jump back into the topic?
No. I just want Justin to drop in the comments what he has so much to say about.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Okay, so back on the topic, there's a couple of comments that came in that I think are pertinent to this. Somebody asked for us to break something down. There it is. Eric Curtis says, explain the feelings of fear versus the spirit of fear, right? And I think the first place I would go to on that explanation, because that's a tricky one, right, is the scripture. And the scripture says, for God, and again, Linda right on top of it, right? She saw it in the comments, she owned it. She goes, for God has not given us the spirit of fear, but the power, power, love, and a sound mind. That's what motivated me, right?
Come on, Godmother.
That's the difference, right? The spirit of fear. He has not given us the spirit of fear, right? And so again, we got to remember good and evil both are spirits, right? You know, so again, the spirit of fear can come from someone else, and the feeling of fear again is what we are using to cause us to study and figure out what's happening, right? You know, see, sometimes you can get fear because you don't feel right? Some don't feel right, you know. When I stepped there, or when I, took that breath, or when I whatever. So, you study it, right? But it's not to paralyze you, which a lot of fear does, right? So I think that scripture is a good place to start for that particular question, right? Let's see. Okay, I think that's it on that topic. Okay, so the next question, right? Somebody mentioned it earlier about love as a motivator. So Mika, I'm gonna start with you on this one. Are people more motivated by fear or love? And that kind of ties into our other topic that we just had, right? So that's a nice little segue back into the topic from the streets are talking. Are people more motivated by fear or love?
I think it depends on your experiences. Especially when it comes, I'm just going to use relationships as an example. If you had, bad breakups or turmoil in your different relationships and how it ended, I think you're going to be more motivated by fear when you jump back into those, specific areas of your life. But, if you've had, times of, I know what this can be. I was motivated by love. It worked out because this. You're less fearful of those different situations and scenarios in your life. So either or.
Okay. Nikki, are people more motivated by fear or by love?
I think that it's it can be more by love too. I kind of agree with Mika because it just depends on the situation as to whether or not you're motivated by fear or by love. But usually if it's pertaining to like a relationship or whatever, most of the time, for me anyway, if I'm fearful of it, it's because it's just the unknown. Because I've been in relationships where I don't know what's gonna, I'm like, I'm really digging him, or whatever, he may be digging me or whatever, but then you may be afraid to actually get into that relationship because you don't had so many other relationships that didn't go bad, or that went bad, so you looking for this one to go right. But then that's their fear again of the unknown, what's going to happen, and what if we don't make it, or what if this it doesn't take us anywhere. So it could be both ways. Love can be a motivator as well. Right.
Okay, Lily, are people more motivated by fear or love?
I think it can be a combination of both. Because it can be a situation like Nikki and both Mika said, just the fear of the unknown, and maybe being in that space of not knowing what's going to happen. I know that sometimes fear fear is seen as a negative thing, but it can be one of those positive motivators. So I think we got to take fear. I think when we think fear, we automatically put it to a negative feeling, and that's not always the case. It can definitely be a motivator. So I think it can be a combination of both, just depending on the situation.
Right. And that was going to actually be where we were going next about fear. But let me give my kind of example about, are people more motivated by fear or love? Well, my comedic answer is, what love got to do with it?
All right, Tina.
my real answer. My real answer is, are people more motivated by fear or love? Well, sadly, they are more motivated by fear, and I will give you an example of this, right? The racial issues that we have in this country and all over the world are a prime example of that. Are people more motivated by fear or more motivated by love, right? And we talked about fear of the unknown. I'm willing to bet if you were able to dissect a racist, you would understand that that's a lot of fear based in that, right? Fear of being inadequate. And I'm gonna let that one sit in first, right? Fear of being inadequate, right? In comparison, fear of just simply the unknown. I don't know. I've heard, you got to think the average individual that don't know us done heard a lot of stuff over the years, right? About who we are as a people, right? And the propaganda that has been dropped, right? Through media going back decades, right? Maybe even centuries, about who we are, has been playing in their mind, right? I'll give you an example. It affected me this past week, and I posted about it when I went to Boston, right? I was told Boston folks were some of the most racist, aggressive, rude.
I've been told that.
You name it, right? I've been told everything you could possibly imagine from a negative stereotype about who Boston people are. I even had people say, "Are you sure you're going there by yourself? You sure you want to do that? You need to be careful." Et cetera, right? Because of what they had heard about the area. Well, I can tell you, my experience could be nothing further than the truth, right? And from what was heard, right? Nothing could be further from the truth. I was treated with so much probably sometimes more kindness than I am here, if you want to know the truth. And I intentionally wore the clothing of the enemy most of my time. Most of my time I was in some sort of cowboy gear or apparel, right? So people immediately knew where I was from, and they immediately, engaged in some banter with me about it, had long conversations, right? About the area and what I was there for and who they are and how they see tech, all this kind of stuff. So nothing can be further from the truth. When some people tell us those things. And so again, they should be motivated by love, right? For one of the examples and the criticisms that racists give, or you're supposed to be a Christian, yet you treat it like this, right? And so from the basis of a Christian standpoint, you should be motivated by love, right? That is our charge, right? And love conquers all. So that should be our motivation in a lot of situations. But unfortunately, fear trumps that, right? And I use that word Trump intentionally. Okay, you see what I did there? I'm a professional.
This is ridiculous. Get back.
Derek made a good point when we were talking about spirit of fear versus the feeling of fear. He goes, spirit in this context speaks to an attitude more than a feeling. Love it. Eric said, good example. Justin says, we got the big win. Yes, we did. Raider Kev said, I think it's a combination. I think you fear of letting down or disappointing your loved ones should be the biggest motivator. That's my process. I think that's a good point. Sometimes that's exactly what it is. Sometimes you are fearful of letting your loved ones down, right? And sometimes, and you got to be careful with that one, right? Because that's going to put sometimes so much undue pressure on the situation. And I'm telling you right now, whether it be Lynn, who's going for this job, and sometimes, I'm gonna tell you what I love about our little thing here, right? Lily, Mika, Nick, and me, if we going for something, if we up for a supervisor gig, we'll bring it to each other and say, hey, y'all be in prayer with me about this one. That's a gamble in and of itself. Because if you don't get it, oh, you didn't get that position, huh? There's this thing the enemy gonna put on you, right? To make you fear they're gonna think less of me because I didn't get it. It's gonna look like a failure that I didn't get it. When the exact opposite I'm gonna tell them is like the best job, but the best the most motivation, the best, what propelled me the most in corporate America is when I didn't get the supervisor job.
That's right.
Yeah.
I applied for a manager's job in the sales department. They had 5 of them open.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I know I'm one of the 5 best in this place. So I'm like, what better time? So I applied for it, right? And I didn't get it. They picked other folks, right? And so what I did is I went to the hiring managers, both separately, because they were directors, both separately. And I told them, I said, hey, I appreciate the opportunity. You made the right decision, but I'm going to do everything I can to prove it wrong going forward. The next one told her the exact same thing. It was a man and a woman. By the time I got to my desk, my phone was ringing. It was the director in another department calling me and saying, can you come see me? When I got down there, he goes, I heard how you responded to not getting that position. I got one for you. It's a manager's position. It's not in the area you want it, but it's a management position. And I'd love to have you. We got to go through the interview process, but I'm rubber stamping it now.
And that's it. That's all. That's what really
based
counts.
on how I responded to not getting what I thought was a slam dunk.
Yeah.
You know?
But like you said, that fear can get in the way of us telling each other, and that encouragement. And like you said, me and Alicia, and all of us have went for the last few months have went through the interview process of going into another position. And it's not that you say, when we come back and we say, I ain't get it. It's the encouragement that comes from it, because it helps you overcome that fear. Like, okay, I can do this again, or how do I respond to this, or how do I process this?
Yeah. Go ahead, Lily.
And so sometimes a lot of people put on Facebook, I just think back to stuff like this when they're like, from now on, I'm moving in silence. Right. And I think that's because it's that fear, right?
Yeah.
We don't want to share what we have going on, because now if we don't get it, somebody gonna be like, Alicia, did you get that? Did you get that job, or did you get that?
Right.
And
you're right.
We have to open the door on that conversation, and that's not what we're comfortable doing. So that's the thing of moving in silence when we're actually fearful of what others are going to
say. That's what I say. That's a form of fear there. I'm scared of what people will say.
100. Yeah. And I put it out there because I'm letting you know I believe in God for this.
Absolutely.
So the pressure is not on me.
Yeah.
The pressure is on his promises, and he's going to fulfill his promises. So when I say this, I'm going to say the Lord going to allow me to, I used to think that all the time. I used to be like, man, I know this is probably going to happen. I know I want this to happen, but I don't want to say it, but I started saying, hey, the Lord, I'm going to sound crazy. Before I got my Camaro, I was talking about my Camaro for 2-3 years before I got that.
I remember that.
Camaro. Yeah. And every time I got ready to go get one, the Lord said, I ain't say nothing about going to get no Camaro. And I'm like, okay, that's gonna look crazy. I got the money, I got the credit. Why can't I? Because I ain't tell you to. And I sit down somewhere, right?
All about timing.
But so Lily was right and says that a lot of people start talking about I'm gonna move in silence when that's not our call. If you're a believer, your call is not to move in silence. I give you a couple of reasons, because it says let your light so shine, right? Number one, that ain't silence. Number two, it says speak that you want, right? Speak things that are not as though they were. Speak into existence what you want, right? So that ain't moving in silence. And Derek talked about the right attitude. But before I go there, Matt Rowe commented, he used to work with me at an insurance company, and he's experienced some of those no's, so to speak. We talked them through, right? Yeah. And again, I'm not saying that right attitude that Derek talked about when I went in and says, thank you for the opportunity, I'm gonna prove you wrong. That's not gonna move everybody the way it moved for me, right? But I didn't do it for them. I did it for me. Yeah. Right. I went and said, thank you for the opportunity. I'm going to prove you wrong going forward, et cetera, et cetera. I did that for me. So I didn't have to sit in the disappointment of that. I didn't know it at the time. Right. I didn't know it at the time, but that's what it ended up. It was a benefit to me. So when you operate with the proper attitude, you're doing it for you, not for somebody else. Right.
And I think what we're all talking about right now is that faith and fear operating in the same space. So I think these are perfect examples of faith and fear walking in the same place, because I'm going to be real with the people who are listening out. Y'all had some of the hardest 18 months I've ever experienced, meaning like with COVID, I'm going to start crying.
It's okay. It's okay.
Take your time.
Yeah.
That's what this show is about, right? You know, to think about it, we done laughed hard on such a serious topic than anybody might imagine. But that's the beauty of it, right? It is called balance, right? And it is why, you know, folks want to wonder why our family is such a successful family. And I'm not talking about me. I'm not talking about the folks you see here. I'm not talking about my mama kids. I'm talking about everybody that's got some of the same blood running through that veins that I got running through mine, right? We are that way because we are balanced, right? We are Christians, we are believers. But in the same podcast, you done heard us do some and say some of the craziest stuff. My auntie said, "Well, I can Ted cuss on this podcast and I can't," because that ain't what being a believer is about. And that's one of the things we keep trying to tell you. It's about balance and demonstrating that balance to everybody. So guess what? She gonna laugh before this show is over with in the middle of her tears.
But it's
and
okay.
Some folks is afraid to cry. Right? You want to talk about fear. Some folks won't let it go. And I'm telling you right now that I laugh because I cry. Fear is a cleansing mechanism for our spirit, right? It cleanses you spiritually. So you let them tears flow. In fact, on my blog, y'all remember the blog I wrote, one of my earliest ones that's got a lot of rave reviews that said, "Big boys don't cry."
Yes.
Right? Men are often told that we don't cry. Get up, big boys don't cry. You know, and so as a result, we carry that into adulthood and don't know how to show our feelings, don't know how to show, express when we're hurting, when we're sad, when we're scared, when we are in love, when we miss somebody, when we whatever, because we've been taught from an early age that big boys don't cry.
That's right.
Yeah.
You got it together, Georgia?
Yeah, I'm back. But yeah, fear.
You look like Georgia when you were crying too, boy. I died.
Them cheekbones came on out. But fear has, over this last 18 months, has taught me faith. So it's been like I've worried about my family. I've stepped out on faith and bought a house on my own. I kept on telling the Lord, it's not time. It's not time. Yeah. You know, we've lost a cousin over these last 18 months. We've struggled. Several people in our family had COVID at the same time.
Yes.
But
at the same, you want to talk about something different, bro.
You talking about
at the same time. Do you even got enough energy to call and check on the other
You can't.
person?
It was about 15 of us who could not move for 7 to 10 days or more. But I'm just thankful that God taught me that, Mika, I can't operate if you got this much fear.
That's stinky there, boy. That's stinky.
So it's allowed me to get out of my own way.
Yeah.
So this faith that, you know, I have to speak to things now. Like I've never had to speak to things before. So that's what fear has done for me.
And sometimes I even find myself thinking to myself that folks getting tired of you talking about faith. Folks getting tired of you talking about fear and faith, don't I? Because I find myself saying it so frequently, you know, and I'm gonna stop that. I'm gonna let my thoughts of them caring about me saying it so often. I don't care. They need to hear it then. If it's coming up, if I'm being led to say it, I'm gonna keep saying it, you know, because again, fear and faith cannot operate in the same space. And that is the most real example you can possibly get. So as you can see, the chat room has been a buzz about it. And let's see, Brian put something down. He goes, I love this show, genuine love. Big Illinois said 100. And Weta says, I'm crying with you. Ray the Kev talking about cleansing mechanism of tears as well. It helps you cope with your thoughts. Both positive and negative tears are good, right? I agree. Lily said, but God. Linda said, love you, niece.
Love you.
Lily didn't say nothing. That was Lena.
I was like, what's that, Lena?
She goes, I'm learning to walk more in faith and not fear. That has held me back my entire life. Now God is opening doors that I never thought could open for me. So again, I'm telling you, I didn't know what the nugget was going to be. I didn't know what somebody was going to love. But right there, when you hear somebody telling you, and you know this ain't no show stuff, right? She is telling you genuinely what the Lord told her. Say, I can't move. And he said it like a daddy, like, baby, I want to help you. I want to give you what you got, but you got my hands tied because you're operating in this fear. I can't push through that. You got to get rid of that. So that is so strong and real. It is, hey, if you don't get that, you get that if you don't get nothing else. Raider Kev, a Big Illinois said, Raider Kev, I agree. Now that I'm older, I realize that you have to cry every now and then to cleanse my soul. That is 100%. That is 100. Okay, so let's give some closing thoughts, and we're gonna start in Anna. Nikki, give your closing thoughts on this situation.
Well, one of the things I wanted to say with regards to what Mika was saying is that I've been there, and it's not. I know it's not easy to not have fear and to just trust God completely, because like I said, I've been there before, and it's not a good feeling. But once you do be obedient and let Him do His will, and let Him do what He has for you, then that's when He's going to move on your behalf, and you will see it, and then you'll know right then and there He's faithful. He just wants us to trust Him, and sometimes that's hard to do. It is, especially with the year that the 18 months or however long it's been that we've had with this COVID going around and people losing loved ones and all that different kind of stuff. It's just not a good feeling. And so I understand that, but I'm always praying for my siblings. And if you ever need me, I don't care if it's day or night. I don't care if I am an hour drive away. I'll be there. Anytime you need somebody to talk to or just a hug, I'll come all the way to Florida to give you a hug.
Come on, girl.
But I just want y'all, I just want our listening audience just to let's just try to do better about things like this, about checking on our loved ones and stuff like that, and just making sure everybody is good. I know we all are in our own world sometimes, and I know this is not a actual closing statement, but it's just important that we check on one another and know what's going on with one another, because even on my husband's side of the family, there's people in his family right now that are having health issues that we really just found out about ourselves. So you got to make sure we call and check on people more, even if you just send a text message. Hey, you've been on my mind, or I just want to make sure y'all, everything's good, whatever the case may be. But check on your loved ones and make sure, because everybody is not as strong as you may be.
Right.
Yep.
They may be dealing with something that you're not dealing with, but they can't handle it. You can handle it a different way.
Right.
So and then the other thing is that let's just work on not walking in fear, but just walk in faith and in love, and know that we serve a God who can do exceedingly and abundantly all that we can ever think and imagine.
Right.
And that's all I have.
And if the Lord puts somebody on your mind, you need to pray.
Right.
If you don't do anything else, you pray for them. Wheaton says, Nicole, I really appreciate your visits to me.
Yes, and I'll be coming again this week.
Lena says, absolutely. We balance so many things within a simple call or a check-in will make a world of difference. I need them. And Marita says, I love you guys. We love y'all.
Love you too, Aunt Marita.
And Linda, I know you out there. Linda, I know you love me, but you don't like me. I know. Mika, close.
I thank the audience again. Thanks so much for the support, for the people who watch this later or who are watching right now. And just another thing, don't let fear take you out. Let it motivate you. Let it be something that helps you get closer to God. Not only get closer to God, but get closer to what you want in your life. Fear shouldn't be anything. I mean, fear will bring on anxiety. Fear will bring on all kinds of stuff. But if you allow, people around you to love on you, if you pray about it, I think fear will show you how to operate. And although I've lived, this last 18 months have been kind of fearful for me, I thank God for the faith it has instilled in me.
Right on. Aunt Marita says, I need somebody to visit me in Mansfield.
Okay, Marita.
And Matt says, he had a good point. A question that blessed me about fear was, are you telling your God how big your problems are, or are you telling your problems how big your God is?
Yeah, that's good.
Fantastic. All right, Lily, final thoughts?
I'm sorry, y'all. This heartburn is about to take me out. It's about to take me out. But just thinking about fear, and I wasn't going to say it tonight simply because fear. But over the past year, it's been like Mika said, it's been a different things that have happened and kind of led to us fear, but also put us in front of faith, right? Mm-hmm. I know that I'm pregnant right now. I'm due in January, but earlier this year I had a miscarriage. So when I had that miscarriage, I had the fear of getting pregnant again because I'm like, I'm not going to go back down that road. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times you fight those silent battles that nobody really even knows that you're going through. Because you're fighting them, but you want to put on a strong face because people usually don't see you break. So just be mindful of where people are in life because you never know what they're dealing with, right? Mm-hmm. They can be dealing with that battle of fear versus faith. And I know that in this, I've reached 6 months. I've reached the level of viability. So I feel like it was like something that was kind of lifted off of my shoulders because it's just kind of hindered me. I think of really being excited about my pregnancy this time around because in the back of my head, I'm kind of like, don't get too excited because, or don't tell too many people because you'll have to backtrack that if something happens. But that's Satan putting that in your head. Right. And not wanting you to trust God. And I trust God completely, but like I said, it's natural for you to have those things, especially when you have been through something so traumatic.
You know what? I think that may be a good spotlight series topic for you to have. And we have some good individuals that would be great for that. And I don't want to put the information out there right now, but contact them. That may be a really good conversation to have on these.
It's needed, and it's needed.
And I know operating the system. If I need to operate like Selena and play our producer that day and do everything from here, but let you run it, behind the scenes, I'll do what I need to do. I'll do it, because I think that's extremely important. Get that topic out there.
Absolutely, because I think it's one of those things where we don't talk enough about because it's just hurtful. So I'm struggling sometimes. But that's all I have.
Right on. We ain't gonna rush through this. We ain't got nothing but time.
But you're gonna carry this baby full term.
January.
Full term. And he or she will be a healthy baby girl or baby boy. Because we putting Satan on notice right now. He's a lie.
Amen. Yeah. Amen. Yeah, y'all need to you start working on that immediately. It's some folks out there need to hear about that. Mr. Curtis says, me personally, when I get the feeling of fear, instead of giving that fear power, I get motivated to go to my prayer closet and I acknowledge that fear to my Father. That's a good one too, right there.
Yeah.
Sometimes we don't tell the Lord we're scared enough. That is super strong. Yeah. And exchange, he always gives me peace. That is strong. Admit to him that you got fear. Mm-hmm. That is strong. That's why that relationship thing is so big, And so for me, my final thoughts on this is, of course, we appreciate you here at Queen3 King for supporting us. We have some loyal viewers here, and BS3 Radio is about to make a major move. The scheduled go live date is November the 1st, over to our own Roku TV channel. We are launching our own Roku TV channel. So again, to God be all the glory, honor, and praise on that one. So we hope that you would move over to that platform. You can still catch us on all the platforms that you have taught us on, but this is just one more way, an additional big way for us to reach a larger audience, and then also give you another method of being able to absorb our content. So we appreciate your support, and we ask that you continue to support us. For me, my final thoughts on this is we need to talk about how to overcome some of that fear. And for me, I'll just give you some advice. Make your comfort zone uncomfortable, right? We had talked about our comfort zones and being in it. And, that's why we are afraid, because it makes us uncomfortable. Well, make your comfort zone uncomfortable. And the way you do that is by doing those things you fear. And I ask that you remember this. The universe doesn't respond to your wants or desires. The universe responds to your behavior. You can want it all you want. You can desire it all you want. The universe ain't going to respond to that. It's going to respond to your behavior. So start acting like it is what it is and watch how the universe responds. And with that, we thank you here at Queen3 and King, and we'll see you next week. Same time, same channel.
Bye.
Bye, y'all. Are we smiling or what are we doing?
The Queen Bee has arrived.
You know.